Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode now of Simon and the Word. We're moving right along, and I'm glad to be here with you. What time is it? It's an eternal time, because if you're listening to this, then it was the right time. It was meant to be. It's God's Word, so God speaks from eternity. All right, we live in time. God doesn't. He lives in eternity. He dwells in eternity. And so whatever time it is, it's the present when God is speaking. So let's hear what he says. We're moving on with Genesis chapter 9. We are at verse 8. Okay. And let's see what's going on here. God said to Noah and his sons. He says again, God said to Noah and his sons, chapter 9, verse 8. I'm going to make a solemn promise to you and to everyone who will live after you. This includes the birds, the animals that came out of the boat. I promise every living creature that the earth and those living on it will never again be destroyed by a flood. The rainbow that I have put in the sky will be my sign to you and to every living creature on earth. It will remind you that I will keep this promise forever. When I send clouds over the earth and a rainbow appears in the sky, I will remember my promise to you and to all other living creatures. Never again will I let floodwaters destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the sky, I will always remember the promise that I have made to every living creature. The rainbow will be the sign of that solemn promise. You see that? The rainbow will be the sign of that solemn promise from God to us that he'll never destroy the earth again by water. Now, calamities may come, earthquakes, floods, volcanoes, but he's never going to destroy the whole earth at once by water. This is what he's promised. And as a sign of that promise, he gave us the rainbow. Okay, that's what the rainbow is. And that's where it originated from. God created the rainbow. And he created it as a promise to you and I that he'll never destroy the whole earth again by flood. Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, came out of the boat. Ham later had a son named Canaan. All people on earth are descendants of Noah's 3 sons. Isn't that a statement right there? All people on earth are descendants of Noah's 3 sons. That's Genesis chapter 9, verse 19. All people on earth are descendants of Noah's 3 sons. If you go back far enough, we're all related. We're all related. Okay, we got to remember this. We're unique, but at the same time, we are all related human beings created in the image of God, and we are brothers and sisters. One blood for real, because we really are related. We're related. We can't say to each other, you're not me and I'm not you. No, we're related. We're a part of each other. We are definitely a part of each other. Okay, so moving right along. Noah farmed the land and was the first to plant a vineyard. One day he got drunk and was lying naked in his tent. Ham entered the tent and saw him naked, then went back outside and told his brothers. Shem and Japheth put a robe over their shoulders and walked backward into the tent. Without looking at their father, they placed it over his body. When Noah woke up and learned what his youngest son had done, he said, "Now I put a curse on Canaan. He will be the lowest slave of his brothers. I ask the Lord my God to bless Shem and make Canaan his slave. I pray that the Lord will give Japheth more and more land and let him take over the territory of Shem. May Canaan be his slave." Noah lived 350 years after the flood and died at the age of 950. 950, you hear that? So when you're having your 60th birthday, 70th, 90th, 95th birthday, no one can tell you you're old. Noah, what? He died at the age of 950, okay? All of us are young in comparison to this. Don't forget that, okay? Don't forget that. We're at Genesis chapter 10. We're almost 5 minutes in. Let's see what's going on. Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. After the flood, Shem, Ham, and Japheth had many descendants. We learned that we're all descendants of these 3 men, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who were Noah's sons. These were the only men to survive the flood. So we all come from these three men. That's what his word says, not mine. God said it. Japheth's descendants had their own languages, tribes, and land. They were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. These names are significant because they're still with us today, believe it or not. All right, Japheth's descendants had their own languages, tribes, and land. They were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Now, I believe that, I could be wrong, but I believe Meshech responds to Moscow today. That actually could be Magog, but these are real places, and they're on the map. Gomer was an ancestor of Ashkenaz, Rephath, and Togarma. Now I'm gonna brutalize these names. I'm sorry, because there's people out there who are listening and they're shaking their head when I read these names. I'm gonna do my best to pronounce the names as best I can. The most important thing is we're getting the message out, okay? The most important thing is we're getting the message out. Javan was the ancestor of Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanim, who settled along the coast. The descendants of Ham. Ham's descendants had their own languages, tribes, and land. They were Ethiopia, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. So we definitely remember these names. We hear these today. Ethiopia, Egypt, Put, Canaan. These are the descendants of Ham, Noah's son Ham. Cush was the ancestor of Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ra'amah, and Sabteka. Ra'amah was the ancestor of Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, a mighty warrior whose strength came from the Lord. Nimrod is the reason for the saying, "You hunt like Nimrod with the strength of the Lord." Nimrod first ruled in Babylon. Erech and Akkad, all of which were in Babylonia. From there, Nimrod went to Assyria and built the great city of Nineveh. He also built Rehoboth, Ir, and Calah, as well as Resen, which is between Nineveh and Calais. These cities are still here today. It's amazing. These are thousands of years old history. And you can be sure that the Bible is a historical record. It's so much, the Bible is so much. It encompasses, it's so rich, and encompasses so much in its richness and in its depth. One of the things that the Bible is a historical record, okay? It's a very accurate history and record of history, okay? All right. Egypt was the ancestor of Ludim, Anamim, Lehabim, Naphuthim, Pathrusim, Kasluhim, and Kaphtorhim, the ancestor of the Philistines. Okay, so we're seeing the ancestor of the Philistines here. Canaan's sons were Sidon and Heth. He was also the ancestor of the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, the Sinites, the Arvadites, and the Zemarites, and the Hamathites. All these people came from Canaan. Later, the Canaanites spread from the territory of Sidon and went as far as Gaza in the direction of Gerar. Ooh, who's heard of Gaza today, right? They also went as far as Lasha in the direction of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim. So the first human beings on earth went as far as Gaza. Okay, these are the first human beings, right? And remember, we all descend from these first human beings, right? So remember, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The whole earth belongs to the Lord. And he gave the earth to us humans, right? And the first humans were already in Gaza, right? Something to think about. All right, the descendants of Shem. Shem's descendants had their own languages, tribes, and land. He was the older brother of Japheth and the ancestor of the tribes of Eber. All right, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. These were Noah's three sons. And Noah and his three sons were the only men to survive the flood. So we all come from Noah's three sons. All right? And his three sons' wives. Shem was the ancestor of Elam, Ashur, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Aram was the ancestor of Huz, Hul, Gether, and Mash. So all these people come from Shem. Arpachshad was the father of Shelah and the grandfather of Eber, whose first son was named Peleg, because it was during his time that tribes divided up on the earth. Eber's second son was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almodad, Shelef, Hazarameth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abamael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. Their land reached from Mesha in the direction of Sephar, the hill country in the east. This completes the list of Noah's descendants. After the flood, their descendants became nations and spread all over the world. All right? So Noah and his three sons and their wives got on the boat, and they were protected from the flood. Okay? And all the nations on earth today come from these three men, Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, now we are at 12 minutes in, and we are at Genesis chapter 11. Genesis chapter 11. So if you're with me, open up Genesis chapter 11, get your sip of coffee. That's good coffee. Genesis chapter 11. At first, everyone spoke the same language, but after some of them moved from the east and settled in Babylonia, they said, "Let's build a city with a tower that reaches to the sky. We'll use hard bricks and tar instead of stone and mortar. We'll become famous, and we won't be scattered all over the world." But when the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower, he said, "These people are working together because they all speak the same language. This is just the beginning. Soon they will be able to do anything they want. Come on, let's go down and confuse them by making them speak different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other." So the people had to stop building the city because the Lord confused their language and scattered them all over the earth. That's how the city of Babel got its name. So if any of you remember the Rosetta Stone, and that was a tablet, a stone that was found that was a translation of many of the different languages at the time, because God had done this to them. And you see what is said here. But when the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower, he said, "These people are working together because they all speak the same language." Right? He said, "Come on, let's go down and confuse them." I see that interesting how the Lord speaks about himself. He says, let's, right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit being referred to here. Okay. So the people had to stop building the city because the Lord confused their language and scattered them all over the earth. That's how the city of Babel got its name. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100, he had a son named Arpachshad. He had more children and died at the age of 600. This is a list of his descendants. When Arpachshad was 35, he had a son named Shelah. Arpachshad had more children and died at the age of 438. When Shelah was 30, he had a son named Eber. Shelah had more children and died at the age of 433. When Eber was 34, he had a son named Peleg. Eber had more children and died at the age of 464. When Peleg was 30, he had a son named Reu. Peleg had more children and died at the age of 239. So before I continue, I just want to mention what's going on here and why the Lord is recording all these names and why wouldn't he, right? These are the first human beings on earth. Everything is in God's books. Nothing goes unnoticed, right? But what's being established here, again, is the historical record of this book. Okay, it's not like any other book. It is a historical record, right? And so these are the ancestors of all the human beings that are on planet Earth today. And you can go back and you can trace the lineage all the way back. It's an incredible thing. Now, when Reu was 32, he had a son named Serug. Reu had more children and died at the age of 239. When Serug was 30, he had a son named Nahor. Serug had more children and died at the age of 230. Now you can see that human beings are starting to their lifespan is starting to get shorter and shorter. You see that Abraham, he died in his 900s, right? But now people are starting to die in their 200s. All right. When Nahor was 29, he had a son named Terah. Nahor had more children and died at the age of 148. So now human beings are starting, their lifespan is starting to get shorter and shorter to what it is today, which is between 80 and 120 years, something like that. After Terah was 70 years old, he had 3 sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran, who became the father of Lot. Terah's sons were born in the city of Ur in Chaldea, and Haran died there before the death of his father. The following is the story of Terah's descendants. Abram married Sarai, but she was not able to have any children, and Nahor married Milcah, who was the daughter of Haran and the sister of Iscah. Terah decided to move from Ur to the land of Canaan. He took along Abram and Sarai and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran. But when they came to the city of Haran, they decided to settle there instead. Terah lived to be 205 years old and died in Haran.